Mr. Mayor, we're now live.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Due to the COVID-19 emergency declaration, this meeting of Ajax Council is being held electronically and live streamed on the town's website. All members of council in attendance are participating by audio and video teleconference, and senior town staff are available throughout the meeting. If council members have any questions on the agenda, throughout the meeting, if council have any questions on the agenda. For members of the public watching from home, please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties throughout the meeting. You figure I'd get this down pat by now. I'll now call this meeting to order. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Does any member of council have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Before we start tonight's agenda, I do have a special announcement I would just like to make. So just bear with me for 1 minute. I have a letter here from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, and I'll just read the first part. The Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, CAMA, Long Service Recognition Awards Program recognizes and celebrates the dedication to public service and municipal management of our members, which is a significant priority to our association. These awards are based on the number of years of full-time paid employment in municipal government in a management capacity. And they're granted 10 years and given in 5-year increments. This year, our municipality, Ajax, is being acknowledged, well, not us, but for the commitment of our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Shane Baker, for his 20 years of municipal service in a management capacity. I would like to ask council and Ajax residents to please help us recognize our CAO Baker. Congratulations. Thank you for all you do in our community and for your 20 years milestone passed today. And I think, Mr. Baker, you got a copy of this as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Congratulations. Moving on. We have adoption of the minutes. I have moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and second by Councillor Khan that the following minutes of previous council meetings be adopted. The regular meeting of April 19, 2021, the closed session meeting of April 19, 2021, the regular meeting of April 21st, 2021, and the closed session meeting of April 2021. Any questions or comments or errors or omissions on the minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Those in favor of approval of the minutes, please. I see all hands. That's carried. Mr. Clerk, were there any requests for questions during question period received from the public?
Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any questions for question period tonight.
Thank you. Moving on to delegations and presentations, we have 5, I believe. The first one, Proclamation Personal Support Workers PSW Day. We have Lynn Steele from the Canadian PSW Network. Ms. Steele, are you ready to go?
Hi, thank you so much. I truly appreciate being here. And I just want to quickly introduce myself. I am the founder of the Canadian PSW Network, and we are a registered nonprofit in our 3rd year. We are a federally incorporated nonprofit. We supply resources and networking and support to personal support workers in all communities across all of Ontario. And we're very proud to be here to represent those PSWs for recognition on PSW Day, which is May 19th every year. And we couldn't be happier to represent them in the most respectful manner that they absolutely deserve after everything they've been through, especially during this pandemic, and everything they're going to continue to go through until we hopefully very soon get through all of this.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And I know I am very thankful for everything that PSWs do, especially through COVID in this past year as frontline essential workers. So our thanks from all of us to them. Does any member of council have any questions to the delegate? Councillor Dias, I see your hand.
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to tell Lynn and express my appreciation to the PSWs. They always work hard, always have. And I know it's been really, really very difficult during COVID. And I know firsthand how they are a lifeline to many, many people, particularly the elderly, that they care for. And it means a great deal to all of us. And it greatly, assists with our families as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, they are absolutely one of a kind. And you're right, they are definitely sometimes the absolute lifeline to some people. And, their only connection to the outside world in some cases. So they perform an absolutely invaluable service every single day. They give selflessly every day. And without them, families would struggle so much. And we cannot thank them enough. We cannot thank Mayor Collier and council enough for recognizing PSWs in your community. It is so greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Well, it's our pleasure, and great job to all the PSWs.
Thank you.
I have the proclamation here. The Corporation of the Town of Ajax hereby proclaims May 19th, 2021 as Personal Support Worker Day, presented on behalf of myself and the Council of the Town of Ajax. So thank you very much for your delegation today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Moving on to our next, our next delegate, item 5.2, Proclamation World Sickle Cell Day, ICA Washington Sickle Cell Awareness Group of Ontario. And I hope I've said your name correctly.
You did, Mayor. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ika Washington. Thank you for inviting me. So my name is Ika Washington. I represent the Sickle Cell Awareness Group of Ontario. I'm their communication manager as well as their COVID counselor. So I would like to thank the cities and the city and the representatives for approving our request for the city of Ajax to proclaim June 19th as World Sickle Cell Day. In this brief presentation, very, very brief, I'm hoping to give some more information about who we are as SCAGO, which is short form for what our organization, what sickle cell disease is, and the importance and significance of world sickle cell disease. Next slide, please. So at SCAGO, we're the largest patient support and advocacy association within Ontario, serving families and children, youth and adults with sickle cell disease. And we were established in 2005. So these are our main mandates: is to improve treatment and care, to educate the community as well as medical allied profession and health professionals. Also to support those living with the disease by providing life-enhancing programs, peer support, scholarships, emergency grants, including COVID-19 grants, self-management skills, and also counseling navigation. And we also advocate on behalf of the government, school, and workplace. Next slide, please. So what is sickle cell disease? So sickle cell disease is a hereditary genetic disorder that is characterized by the presence of abnormal crescent cells, red blood cells. So typically your cells would look like a Tim Hortons donut. It's going to be round, but with sickle cell disease, it's crescent. And that is because of the abnormality of hemoglobin, and that is used in order to help to travel oxygen across the body. So with the lack of oxygen across the body, you would get sudden attacks, which are excruciating pain, which is called pain crises, which many patients suffer from. And that can happen anywhere in the body at any given time. And it's also described to be higher pain than childbirth and also cancer-related pain. You can go to the next slide. So I'm just going to bring everybody back to also biology, grade 10 and grade 11 biology of Punnett squares. So we looked at Punnett squares in biology, and you looked at genes and how genes are moved around. So what is sickle cell trait? So when two people in the diagram, when two individuals mate, you have somebody may have this actual sickle cell trait and the father may have the sickle cell trait. And when you have children, you have 25% chance of having a child with the disease or without disease and 50% of the trait. So with the trait, because it's hereditary, it is very important that when it comes to actually having children, that they don't actually have, but both don't actually have or reproduce and have a child with sickle cell trait. So amongst individuals with ancestral roots in regions of the world, which is most regions of the world with malaria, you find that the prevalence of sickle cell disease may be as high as one in 4 or 25% of the population. So individuals like myself who have the trait, we carry this trait, but it's also could be symptomatic or asymptomatic as well. You can go to the next slide. So what is the significance of Ajax, including Ontario and Canada? When we look at the rates and stats, SCAGO, for example, recognizes that sickle cell is an increasingly important medical issue. And there's an estimated of 6,000 Canadians affected by the disease. And most of them actually live in Ontario. And over 65% of the babies born with the disease are nationally are actually born in Ontario. And then there's over 150,000 people in Ontario actually carrying the trait, just like myself. So why is it a public health concern? As I just described, without routine screening and awareness among the general population, the number of individuals in Ontario and Canada affected by sickle cell disease will continue to rise. And actually, they found in the United States that people are 3 times more likely to have sickle cell disease than to have cystic fibrosis. But cystic fibrosis actually gets 27 times more funding than sickle cell disease. And it's very, very similar to here in Canada as well. You can go to the next slide. So bringing it back to World Sickle Cell Day and the importance, the WHO recognized, as well as UN recognized, that sickle cell disease is a global health priority. And in order to raise awareness of the disease, they designated June the 19th. As well, in Canada, we did the same thing, November the 22nd in 2017. Us, as well as our sister organization, which is Sickle Cell Disease Association of Canada, we also had brought it forth to the Canadian government, and they have recognized that June 19th is also Sickle Cell Awareness Day. And the effort of this day is to reduce stigma and discrimination through education awareness programs, and SCAGO is doing its part to reduce it with the help of cities like yourself, which have helped to proclaim the day. You can go to the next slide. The initiative of World Sickle Cell Day is to engage the entire province of Ontario through a number of cities and a number of landmarks like the CN Tower, which will be lit red for World Sickle Cell Day since 2017. Niagara Falls, they'll be doing a light show as well since 2019, and as well as CNE as well. And you guys are just a part of it as well in order to bring on awareness to this day and to bring forth the fact that, you know, it is a very important health priority, and that there's a lot of people that are also in minoritized populations that are suffering from this disease. And, you know, and we're looking forward and thanking you guys for and appreciating that you guys have also recognized this day. So thank you very much. And I put some slides as well with my information if anyone wants any more information, and also some great sources are like Johns Hopkins University, UHN, and WHO. Thank you.
Thank you for your delegation. Any questions? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Washington, for the presentation. I'm just on the CDC website right now, and apparently it is true that if you have sickle cell issues, that you're actually more likely to suffer severe effects of COVID, correct?
Yes, that is also
Then
correct.
I think it's more important than ever then that, you know, the town reach out with this proclamation. So I'm very glad that we did, and just encourage everyone to continue getting those vaccinations so that people who have sickle cell issues aren't more at risk than they normally are. So thank you again for sharing the advocacy.
Thank you.
Any further questions from members of council? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Washington, very much for your delegation, and I certainly learned a few things today as well from your presentation, so thank you. And it gives me great pleasure on behalf of Town of Ajax, hereby proclaim June 19th, 2021 as World Sickle Cell Day, presented on behalf of myself and all members of Ajax Council. And I think the clerk will provide you with a copy of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our next presentation. We have item 5.3, Proclamation International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. And we have Jake Farr, Pflag Canada, Durham Region. Mr. Farr, are you ready?
I am here.
All right,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Yeah.
5
Thank you
minutes.
very much for having me. And I just want to make mention, thank you to the two people before me, because as a social worker, PSWs are the savior of this world. And I also have two people in my family who have sickle cell. So I'm very, very appreciative for the advocacy. So today I'm coming here. Some of you may have noticed there was a new flag that was being flown today. And I kind of want to bring forward within the context of today's celebration around what that is about. So we can go to the next slide. I also want to bring about, so we all talk about land acknowledgements, and for PFLAG, we also, as I've got here, wishes to shine a light on the fact that various genders and sexualities were an integral part of many Indigenous nations prior to colonization. Queer, trans, and two-spirit Indigenous people still exist today, despite colonizers' attempts to erase them. It's important to know that Europeans' introduction of homophobia and transphobia to this land is the reason why we continue to educate and advocate for the 2S LGBTQI community today. Next slide. So just a reminder for folks what Pflag Durham Region is. We are a resource and support place for all people in the 2S LGBTQI community, their family, their friends, their allies. We also do a lot of education and support within organizations, within governments, to offer our lens to help with inclusion and diversity work. We run a camp for youth 13 to 17. It's a peer mentorship camp that is free to campers. Even in the pandemic, we put that online. We had over 50 youth last year. We'll easily have 50 this year, depending on COVID. It'll depend on whether we get to have even a day camp or something maybe later in August, but we do run that every year. We also run peer-to-peer support. We also run parent supports. We run a transitions group, which is for folks who identify as trans or gender expansive. We have a tweens and teens group. We have sharing nights, and we run education. And then we do a lot of advocacy within the community, helping students if they're struggling or that kind of stuff. So, and this is all volunteer based. So we've been doing this since 2003. We've been around a little while. So thank you. Next one. So today's day, just to bring up what it's about, oftentimes people don't know why we're celebrating. And I think how do we celebrate and do the right work and understand unless we understand what's going on? So back in the 90s, basically up until 1990s, being a homosexual or gay, whatever you want to call it, was actually like considered a mental health issue. You were got a little check mark in the DSM saying that you had a mental health issue. In the 1990s, the WHO took that out and said, you know, that's not a mental health issue anymore. So starting out in like 2005, they started having the celebration. And it was first known as International Day Against Homophobia. And then in 2009, International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. And then it was known as today, where we stand, is International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. And I think what the deal I want to bring forward is that, see, there's progression there, right? We're moving forward. It's a progressive state. We all learn and we grow and we see what this is. So there's still lots of work to do around some of the work that's medicalizing and trying to put mental health onto people who are from the Pride community. And that's what today's about. One is to celebrate and also to bring recognition to the work that's ongoing. Okay. So why do we need these days, right? So we were talking earlier prior to doing this, like, you know, we all don't know what we don't know until we're told. And then once we have information, you can take that with you. And so for us at PFLAG, what we like to bring forward is, you know, why do we have these days? Sometimes they're memorializing, some like today it's like a celebration. Is to increase awareness, right? And the acceptance of that diversity exists among us, right? We're already diverse, and now what we need is inclusion and equity. To promote the 2S LGBTQI positive spaces and individuals who are able to provide information referrals, to sensitize people to the presence of both subtle and overt forms of homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia, to actively and visibly support members of the 2S LGBTQI community who are coming to accept their gender identity and their sexual orientation, and to enhance positive experiences for the 2S LGBTQI community. And the goal for this presentation is to inspire some of that social change in the workplace and in the community that you folks being on council or even staff that's here can really pull into Ajax and the city of Ajax work. Next slide. So just a quick history, because you're probably going to wonder, why are we getting a history lesson? I just want to show you again the progress, right? 1978, the very first pride flag was made. It was actually 8 colors, but because they really couldn't get the hot pink or the turquoise, it was actually reduced down to 6 colors. But this was designed by a person named Gilbert Baker, and they gave it. There's no licensing fee. You don't have to have a license for it. You may use it. It was given over to the community to celebrate. Next slide. And then in 1979, like I said, due to the availability of literally there was just pink and turquoise flag colors weren't available at the time, so it was brought down. And there's actually a meaning to the pride flag. So oftentimes we just think it's a rainbow, and I mean, I guess technically it's a rainbow as we call it, but it really is. It has meaning to it. Each line. So we have life, healing, sunlight, nature, serenity, and spirit, and that's actually the pride flag meanings. All right, next slide. So then in 2017, Philadelphia really went out and advocated and said, no, we need to bring forth those folks that we are missing, which is folks who are brown and black, and to draw attention to the difficulties of their intersections within our community and within society being within the community. And so the BIPOC, or Black, Indigenous, people of color, were the starting force of the queer movement, if you want to call it that, right? It was trans women of color who were actually the ones who threw the bricks at Stonewall, who started the riots and said, no more, you can't beat us up anymore. It wasn't like the movie where, they kind of made it the white person. It really was our Black and brown trans women of color who actually started the movement toward equity for us, equality. Next one. So then in 2018, another designer came up with these 5 colors. So we have the pride colors of the traditional pride. And then what they added in was they put in a chevron sort of look to indicate, as it says, it shows a forward progression, which meaning we can, even within our community, we can progress forward. Nothing has to stay the same. We can identify, we can have people identifying in new ways and growing and learning. And so again, it shows our Black and brown community members, as well as it shows the trans colors, which is the white, pink, and blue. And so, this year is just one more way that we can show the community that they are all included and that we see them, right? Okay, next one. So, one thing is we did, and just so you all know, Pflag in February, we sent out through our social media sites. We have, a couple thousand followers on different levels of platforms. We sent it out, and over 87% of the people who returned back to the reply, which flag would they like to be seen flown in Durham, indicated that they wanted to see this newer flag. So today, by you allowing us to offer that to you and for you to raise that as the city of Ajax, it actually is showing the community that you're listening to them, right? It is a step toward including. It's including their voice into what we're looking for is being seen and heard, right? So I don't stand here today coming to you and say, pointing the finger at like anything that you've done wrong or what you should be doing. All I'm asking today from anybody that's here, that's listening, that you can understand your role in seeking and gaining education, right? So we no longer kind of get to stand in like, I don't know anything about that community. We can learn about it. There's plenty of places to come. Pflag's a great source for that. That inclusion and equity are not just a point in time, but it's a progressive movement. So just because we know today doesn't mean we don't know more tomorrow, right? We never used to wear seatbelts and we figured out it was safer to wear seatbelts. We move forward, right? So it's the same thing with when we're looking at communities that are historically oppressed and stigmatized and basically had a lot of things happen to them, that we can continue to move forward to learn. Know that the 2S LGBTQI community needs support. up to 40% of our homeless youth are from that community. So when you're thinking about homelessness as a whole, even within Durham or within Ajax, you have a lot of the homeless youth are from the Pride community, or the 2S LGBTQI community, that have been rejected by their families and had to have and either kicked out or had to move out in order for safety. So these are the things that we're asking for, is as you're making plans and budgets and all those types of things, you keep in mind that in the background that this community exists and sometimes are overlooked. Taking note of where homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia exists within the systems you work in, and within your own personal biases, right? We all come with our stuff, folks. I absolutely understand that. We all have narrative that we were given. I can't even imagine to tell you what I was given when I was younger, but we can all learn, right? We can progress and we can become inclusive and make that playing field equal or equitable for everybody. And speaking out when you observe them. I really ask everybody here, council or staff that's here, please, as you're doing this work, when you're thinking of passing laws, bylaws, budgets, look at the impact it might have on a community. That sometimes, like I said, it's a pretty big community, like 8 to 10% of the community somewhere falls into the spectrum under the Pride community. So it can be a vast number of your folks that are voting for you and support you in your spaces. And I'm just asking you from Pflag today, as we celebrate this day and we acknowledge it, that we also notice that there's more work to be done in order to keep reducing homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia. And thank you for the presentation. The last one is just our contact information as well, that you can always find us and where we're at on social media and things like that.
Thank you.
That's what I have for today. Yeah.
Does any member of, thank you for the presentation. Any member of council have any questions for Mr. Farr? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Jake. I don't know why I'm feeling emotional after your presentation, but I mean, you did a really good job. And it really opened up my mind that I need to be educated a lot more. And you did mention there are places that we can go to open our minds and get some more education on this. Can you repeat that for me again, please, Jake?
Yeah, so Pflag, we've actually gone into some of the city places. They've asked us to come in and do talks, or individuals can come and you can contact here and you can come and learn. We have sharing nights you can come and learn. We have lots of resources. So yeah, and we always, and we're a not-for-profit. So if someone says, hey, can you come and do like an hour with the council, we can do that and we can answer questions and help you, right? I just really believe that we're not here anymore to point fingers and tell people they're doing badly. What we need to do is help folks to understand what the impact is if we don't educate ourselves.
I just want to congratulate you on your initiative, and it's an excellent initiative. The proclamation is great. Congrats on that too. And I'm sure that staff heard. I think we will try and educate ourselves some more. And I want you to know that you can rest assured that you are represented in the town of Ajax and this community. Your councillors hear you, and you are represented. But thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Any other members of council? Seeing and hearing none. Mr. Farr, thank you for your presentation. I believe we have the flag up, or if it's not up, it will be up shortly. And
it's up.
Proudly displaying it for many years, as well as the crosswalk. Although we did a painting in the gazebo because we couldn't do a crosswalk, but yeah, I think Ajax have been pretty progressive in this area, and we will continue to move forward. And as I said to the last delegate, I learned a couple more new things. I didn't know that 2S stood for Two Spirit, and I didn't know what all the colors meant for each one. So my journey of education continues as well. So thank you. I have the proclamation here from the town of Ajax, hereby proclaims May 17th, 2021 as International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, presented on behalf of myself and Ajax Council. And thank you for before us tonight. Moving on to our next presentation, we have item 5.4, Proclamation, National Accessibility Week 2021. Julia Stevenson, Accessibility Advisor Committee Member. Ms. Stevenson, whenever you're ready.
Okay, sorry, I had a little bit of trouble there with my camera and my microphone. So thank you so much for having us this evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Julia Stevenson, and I am here this evening on behalf of the Town of Ajax Accessibility Advisory Committee to request your support in the recognition of National Accessibility Week, May 30th through June 5th, 2021. As accessibility ambassadors in the Ajax community, the AAC continues to provide advice and feedback to the town on opportunities for accessibility awareness and community engagement. One of the initiatives supporting such efforts continues to be the town's annual recognition of National Accessibility Week. National Accessibility Week aims to celebrate people with disabilities, removing barriers and cultivating inclusion in the community. As you are aware, for the past several years, the town of Ajax, as well as several other municipalities across Canada, have recognized and celebrated National Accessibility Week in their communities, in efforts to engage public accessibility awareness, education, and appreciation. Over the past year, with millions of people all over the world experiencing lockdown and social distancing, many able-bodied people are experiencing for the first time how it feels to face external barriers preventing them from participating in everyday life. Since March 2020, COVID-19 has brought profound changes to our personal lives, business operations, and the delivery of services in the way of social barriers, disconnection, exclusion, and financial hardship. All longstanding experiences encountered by many in the disability community. The pandemic has reinforced that the need for accessibility and inclusion has never been greater. In celebration of National Accessibility Week 2021, we are excited that this year's recognition will include several interactive virtual events and activities. On Tuesday, June 1, members of the AAC will be joining the town's active transportation coordinator and staff from the Ajax Public Library in an inclusive online information session about exploring the Ajax Trail System. On Wednesday, June 2nd, we encourage everyone to wear red in support of Easter Seal's Red Shirt Days accessibility awareness celebration, and to post images on social media tagging the town of Ajax. Members of the committee will be participating in the Ajax Public Library's virtual STEAM story time session to read a story about accessibility and inclusion. And also on the 2nd, the Ajax Business Network virtual event will be welcoming keynote presenter Mayan Ziv, accessibility advocate and founder of Access Now, an online crowdfunded accessibility mapping application to share information with local businesses on the importance of accessibility. And if trivia is more your cup of tea, the ever popular virtual Quiz Whiz event will be celebrating National Accessibility Week with a round dedicated to questions on accessibility and inclusion. On Thursday, June 3rd, as part of our Real Ability film event, we invite you to tune in to a live stream conversation with Beverly Dooley, Manager of Client Engagement with Canadian Hearing Services, for an engaging discussion on the deaf and hard of hearing community in advance of a free film screening of the Oscar-winning film Sound of Metal, in participation with the Ajax Public Library. In addition to our virtual events, we will be launching a Creatability art contest to run throughout the month of June, seeking artistic representations, drawing, painting, poetry, photography, any kind of art of what accessibility and inclusion means to you. All participants will be entered into a prize draw. We're also putting out a call to Ajax to identify any accessibility all-stars within our community. If you know of a business, group, or individual in Ajax who has done something to remove accessibility barriers and support accessibility and inclusion within our community, we want to hear about it. Share your stories with us online. All of these, and just so you know, all of these events and activities are free for anyone to participate, and complete details are available online at imo.ajax.ca. Tonight, your support and recognition of National Accessibility Week will assist with promoting the importance of accessibility awareness and an inclusive, barrier-free community. On behalf of the Town of Ajax Accessibility Advisory Committee, we encourage Council to proclaim May 30th through June 5th, 2021 as National Accessibility Week in the Town of Ajax. Thank you so much for your time this evening and your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson. Does any member of council have any questions on the presentation? So you did such a great job. You answered everybody's questions. I'll just say thank you very much for all your hard work and all the hard work of the Accessibility Advisory Committee that they do for the town to help us make our town more accessible. I do have the proclamation here. Town of Ajax hereby proclaims May 30th to June 5th, 2021 as National Accessibility Week, presented on behalf of myself and Ajax Council. I'm sure the clerk will provide that to you in hard copy for you and for all the committee members.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to our last proclamation, section 5.5, delegation on June is Aging Well Month from Robert Perkilo, Community Recreation Coordinator, Senior Programs and Services with the Town of Ajax. Robbie, are you ready?
Robbie, you're on mute. Sorry.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Collier, members of council, Town of Ajax staff and residents. Thank you for having me here tonight. As a community recreation coordinator with the Town of Ajax, I continually research new and creative ways to engage our older adults and senior population. Due to the current climate resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, it's important to continue to connect with our older adult and senior residents. Activities planned during Aging Well Month will pivot from traditional in-person events and workshops to a virtual setting, allowing residents the opportunity to play and learn from the comfort of their home. In consultation with the town's Older Adult Task Force, we have been busy developing ways to keep our community engaged and connected. Through the newly developed newsletter titled The Link, which is published seasonally, we're able to promote programming opportunities through recreation, culture, and community development, along with the Ajax Public Library, as well as providing information related to our older adults and seniors. June 2021 marks the 37th anniversary of Seniors Month in Ontario, which we have coined Aging Well Month. During the month of June, we recognize the role that our older adults and seniors play in our community, the contributions of their time and talents that add to the vibrancy of our community, and the importance of being leaders and mentors to younger generation. To celebrate Aging Well Month, the Older Adults Task Force have put together a number of free virtual activities taking place throughout June, and I'd like to thank them for their efforts in putting a list of activities together. I'd also like to acknowledge the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility for the ongoing support through the Seniors Active Living Center funding, which has allowed us to offer activities like these for free to participate. Aging Well Month kicks off with the registration of our popular Craft Crate kits available for curbside pickup. Registration for these kits begin on June 1st at 9 a.m. On June 3rd, join us for a lunch and learn with Ajax resident CJ Calvert, Motivational speaker, coach, and author, CJ will share with us how laughter is the best medicine during his Finding Humor in Your Day presentation. On June 7th, try your luck with a fun game of bingo, where winners will get a chance to win gift cards to a location of their choice. And get fit with our morning yoga session on June the 15th. On Friday, June 18th, join us as DJ Al hosts his dance party, Zoom from your living room with tunes from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And on Thursday, June 24th, Act 2 Studio presents a video performance of I'm Still Here. I'm Still Here is a research-based play that improvs understanding about the stages of dementia, the journey from early onset to long-term care. The performance ends with a Q&A with Alzheimer's Society of Durham Region. For more information on each of our activities and to register, residents can go online and visit ajax.ca/55+ or call 905-619-2529, extension 7243. We continue to offer our popular Senior Centers Without Walls program Monday through Friday via Zoom, where participants can call or Zoom in. I thank you for your time as we respectfully request that June 2021 be proclaimed Aging Well Month.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Does any member of council have any questions to Mr. Burkillo on the presentation? I'll ask one. Ravi, I'm just wondering, how are we notifying our seniors groups, members of Probus, and those about these events that are going to be happening?
Well, we've got Your Worship, we've got a number of ways that we're notifying them through our previous craft crate. So we do an art kit delivery curbside pickup, and we get about 150 people participating in that. We've put flyers in there. We've also done email blasts to a number of clubs and their memberships. Through our older adult task force, they help spread the word as they advocate for a number of our recreational programs. And we'll also be utilizing the news advertiser as well.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Crawford, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank you, Robbie, for all the work that you're doing with our seniors. It really does make a difference, and it can be a very, very lonely time for some of our seniors. Just recently, just this morning when I was on out and about, I was talking with one of them, and she was just saying how confused she's been lately, and it's just a very lonely time, them not being able to sleep and missing their families. And so what you provide for them is very, very valuable. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have the proclamation? There we go. If there's no further questions from council, on behalf of Town of Ajax, it's my pleasure to hereby proclaim June 2021 as Aging Well Month, and that's presented on behalf of myself and all members of council. Thank you very much, Mr. Burkillo, for your presentation. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
That concludes our delegations. Moving on to items of correspondence. We have moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Dyes, that the report dated May 17th, 2021, containing items of correspondence be received for information. Are there any polls? Councillor Lee.
I think it was items 4 and
Items 3 and 5?
yes, please.
Read your mind. Councillor Khan, you had one of the proclamations on Guyana as well, correct?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, which is item number 1. On the balance, any others? So on the balance, those in favor of receipt of those items of correspondence? Carried. On item number 1, Councillor Khan. Please
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. I would like to take this time to acknowledge Guyana Independence Day on May 26, 2021. Guyana's first constitution came into existence on the day of freedom itself, May 26, 1966, after being ruled by the British for 152 years. This constitution supported the opinion that Guyana was a self-governing country established on a particular statute of law. At present, the people of Guyana observe Independence Day and in nations across the world, including Canada, which is home to thousands of members of the Guyanese community. On the day the Declaration of Independence was read, bells were rung, bands were played, and the people of Guyana rejoiced. Independence Day has been celebrated throughout the country since then as a national holiday. The town of Ajax has a growing, diverse population and is home to many Guyanese residents. I am proud to be a member of council and honored to represent the Guyanese community and would like to wish a happy and safe Guyana Independence Day to all those celebrating. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's our pleasure to declare May 26th as Guyanese Independence Day. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Khan. Will you move that for receipt?
Yes, I would love to.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Khan, seconded by Councillor Lee. Item number 1, those in favor of receipt? That is carried. Thank you. Items number 3 and 5. Councillor Lee, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'll speak on them both at the same time. It's both dealing with stopping Asian hate. So City of Pickering and the region of Durham both issued just statements in support of the Asian community and against Asian hate. I just want to take this opportunity to just, I think I speak on behalf of Councilor Bauer and myself, as well as, you know, the Asian community at large. We've received an outpouring of support, and you know, allies have come out of just really supportive of everything we've been doing. The town has come out with a lot of initiatives for Asian Heritage Month, and I just want to say, just from the bottom of my heart, I absolutely appreciate that show of support, especially in this time where things aren't the best in the world right now. And it's for me, I think I just want to extend that support to any marginalized group at the end of the day. You know, just like many stood in allyship with me, we will absolutely stand in allyship with you. So just want to take the moment, thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak on this, or just saying that we really appreciate the support. So at the appropriate time, I will move items 3 and 5.
Thank you. Any other member of council wish to speak on this? I'll just add that May 20th is Asian Gold Ribbon Day. And if anybody wants more information on that, you can go to asiangoldribbon.com. You'll see some people wearing masks that have the gold ribbon on them or wearing gold ribbons, and that is to reflect Asian Gold Ribbon Day against anti-Asian racism, which I think is very important to all of us. So I'll just add that. Moved by yourself, I'll say seconded by Councillor Bauer. Those in favor of receipt of items 3 and 5? I see all hands. That's carried. Thank you very much. That concludes our items of correspondence. Moving on to General Government Committee reports. I've moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and seconded by Councillor Bauer that the General Government Committee report dated May 10th, 2021 be adopted. Any questions or comments on the GGC report? Seeing none, those in favor? I see all hands. That is carried. Moving on to the summary of advisory committee reports, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Dyes, that the summary of advisory committee activities report dated May 17, 2021, as attached to the meeting agenda be received for information, and that the recommendations contained therein be referred to staff where applicable. Any questions or comments on the advisory committee reports? Okay, hearing none. Those in favor of receipt? That is carried. Thank you. Regional council reports. Are there any regional council reports? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, before this, I'd said I didn't have one report, and then I realized actually there's a few updates. These are regarding the committees I'm on the Planning and Economic Development Committee at the region. So first, it was announced earlier this week that the CNE, I think for the third time in 142 years, will not be running in person. Obviously, with COVID still top of mind and people only starting to get vaccines to that point, the committee felt uncomfortable having the CNE live. That said, we have a board meeting at the end of the month. I'm looking forward to joining that and finding out what the virtual experience will be like. We did one last year, and hopefully we'll do another one this year. And we're very hopeful, obviously, as with most Canadians, that the CNE will come back live and stronger than ever in person. So we're hoping for that. And then I was actually appointed onto 2 boards. So I'm the Planning and Economic Development representative for the Durham Region Local Housing Corporation, which we have a meeting right before Regional Council on Wednesday morning. That's next Wednesday. And I'm also the regional representative on the Business Advisory Center of Durham, which is a great organization that provides people who have small business ideas how to get started. I think one of the most daunting tasks is how do I start a business? And the ACD is a fantastic resource. They've been around for a very long time. Very looking forward to working with them. And their AGM is on Thursday, May 27th. So looking forward to just be participating in that. And I just want to thank my regional council colleagues for putting me on those boards. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other members of regional council have anything to report? I'll just speak quickly to the finance. The Durham region, the region of Durham has now created a Durham Region Anti-Racism Task Force, which is going to be there. We approved their terms of reference at the last finance meeting, and they are looking at a hub and spoke approach, and they will be coordinating with all the other anti-racism, anti-Black racism task force that are throughout the region and sharing information and helping us move forward to eliminate systemic racism in our communities. So I think that's a big step forward. And also our comments on the code of conduct to the province on the committee of the whole meeting. Any questions on the regional council reports? Hearing, seeing none, those in favor of receipt for information? Any opposed? None, that's carried. Moving on to motions, I will relinquish the chair to Deputy Mayor Lee as I have the first couple of these. I'll just go right into it. The first one, Great Lakes St. Lawrence City's resolution moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dyes, and I'll just read the therefores of these and then speak to it. Ajax Council reaffirms its commitment to water quality and protection of our near shore. And that staff be directed to develop a resolution for submission to the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative for their consideration, seeking provincial and federal cooperation and funding to formally acknowledge the triggers of cladophora blooms and how to prevent it, develop and implement phosphorus reduction action plans, algae mitigation strategies for all Great Lakes, including Lake Ontario, implement tertiary treatment for wastewater to mitigate nutrients, protect habitat, and enhance biodiversity, implement green infrastructure and conserve and restore existing wetlands to improve water quality and mitigate impacts of stormwater, and the motion be distributed to the Prime Minister and everybody down. And just to speak to it very quickly, we've had a long-standing relationship with the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. We actually hosted their AGM a few years ago. And it's made up of basically all lakeshore, most lakeshore municipalities, where we move forward a lot of the issues like what we have addressing Ajax on our waterfront, being our cladophora issues. And these are both Canada and US, because the Great Lakes, obviously, we know are bordered on both sides. We all know of the issues that we've had with Lake Erie and the cleanup and the things that are needing to be done now to address the issues there. And it's very concerning that we don't want to see anything like that happen to any of the other Great Lakes, and we want to be more proactive about it. So this is just directing staff to prepare motions that are submitted on behalf of the Town of Ajax to the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, and if accepted and once passed and endorsed by that group, gives us a much, much stronger national voice on these very, very important issues. And the reason why we're getting staff to do them is we have staff who are the experts on these, that know a lot more about it than myself, for sure, and that can really put the wording in place that we need to help us address these growing problems. Councillor, oh, I'm not the chair. I'll turn it back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Regent Dyes, as the seconder of the motion, do you want to speak on this as well?
Yes, please. I'm pleased to see this come forward. I know it's been before the Great Lakes previously. I think now more than ever, the writing's on the wall, as any municipality around the lake will tell you, they have a problem with algae growth along the near shore. And they also tell you they continue to want to do more research. And I think that's why we need to also add in there, and I've spoken to staff about the precautionary principle, when, you know, the science is sort of not quite there yet and there's some uncertainty. I think that it's a different approach to human health and the environment. So we know the impact is on tourism. The impact affects the health of residents that live close by because of the smell of algae. 1 year we lost 21 loons to a botulism because they eat from the algae mass, and as it's rotting, they get this botulism. There are just so many impacts, and it basically is about our water quality and the future of this water quality for generations to come. And I think more than, like I say, more than ever, we really need to do something. We can't fix everything, but we can certainly solve the problem of flushing huge amounts of nutrients into the lake, which grows all the underground water, or garden, I should say, and that's creating the problem. So I really look forward to seeing the resolution for the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, and thanks staff for this.
Thank you. Do any members of council have any questions or comments regarding the motion? I just have one to, I guess, the mover. Are we the only Durham Region municipality part of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities group, or are there other ones?
Oh, good question. I'm not sure if Cam is actually on the call, or maybe our director of planning might know, but I'm surprised. I think we are the only member in Durham. I think given the AGMs I've attended, or the conventions I've attended, I have not seen any of the others. Councillor Dyes, maybe you could speak to that. You've been to more than me. But we were the only ones representing Durham at the last one. And I'm quite surprised, because there are a lot of very large municipalities like Toronto, like Mississauga, like Oakville, like Niagara is a member, but there is a lot of very large municipalities that are not, and really they should be. So I think also by us speaking up, I think we're raising awareness as well about this committee and about this group. But my guess is we're the only ones, but if staff can correct me on that, I'm open to that.
Just the only reason I ask is, unfortunately, the region and other municipalities, they have not been as supportive as Ajax has been towards getting tertiary treatment. So I hope, by hearing from a larger group, like you said, will bring more focus towards this problem that we've been, especially previous councils before us have been advocating for a very long time. So there's no need for staff to just jump in. I was just asking for my own edification. I guess we'll call it to vote then. So all in favor of the motion in front of you? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Mayor Collier, I believe you had the second motion.
Thank you, Chair. This one is support local procurement policy. And again, I'll just read the action thereof and then just speak to it. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Tyler Moore, that staff be directed to undertake a review of the town's purchasing policy and a bylaw to recommend enhancements to local preference that are legally defensible, including with consideration to innovative policies that may not be widely adopted across Ontario municipalities, like social procurement or community benefit policies. Staff be directed to review the ability to add a value add section in all bid documents so that prospective vendors are able to provide additional details and incentives to be considered as part of the entire proposal, in line with the provincial broader public sector purchase guidelines. 3, that staff be directed to review the ability of all purchases under $5,000 made by staff to be directed to local or regional vendors where feasible. 4, that staff be directed to obtain a legal opinion to ensure that any potential recommendations are not contrary to the town's international or national trade obligations or in contravention of any provincial legislation. And 5, that staff be directed to report back to council or the appropriate standing committee by November 2021 with options to implement in 2022. And I'll just speak to it quickly. This is just simply asking for a staff report on what we can do, as far as one of the things we've spoken so much about is supporting local and supporting our local businesses throughout this pandemic, especially. And we have a lot of very, very good businesses in Ajax, but we are unable right now to give any sort of, if a company is here and they're paying property taxes here and they're providing employment here and they're participating in the community and they're putting back into the community, but they don't happen to be the absolute lowest bid, that bid goes to somewhere else and that does not come back in. Now, I know there's a lot of limitations and I don't know what all those are. So this is just basically asking staff to look at those and see if there's any ways that we can tweak our policies in order to give a community benefit component or weighting to that when we're looking at it, that reflects putting back into the community. And I don't know if we can, but I at least want staff to look at it. So this is just basically asking for a report. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tyler Morton as the seconder. Any comments?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm very happy to support this, and I'm honored that I was asked to second it. It does speak to local job creation, local preference. As the mayor just indicated, it really is good timing. It's very much in sync with the messages that we're all sharing with each other, shopping locally. Obviously, this speaks also to doing it responsibly, so that we're not giving an unworthy local over somebody that's not local. It doesn't mean that we don't want people coming to our town and trying to get business. But any way we can help businesses, as we know, a lot of them have been decimated, some of them not so much, and some of them have excelled. But there's been a lot of movement and talk in the last year for local business, and I'm glad this is here. It's very important that we advocate, and I'm glad that staff will be looking at this. Look forward to seeing what they come up with and what they advise us to do moving forward. But good motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other members of council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, then we'll call to vote. All in favor? That is unanimous. And I think I'm still going on. Mayor Collier, the next motion.
Finally, the 2021 census support, and I guess better late than never on this one since Census Day is now passed, but moved by myself, and second by Councillor Khan, and just the action item, the Ajax Council supports the 2021 census and encourages all residents to complete their census questionnaire online at www.census.gc.ca. Again, we've all received our forms. Hopefully we've all submitted them already. Those that haven't, I just wanted to make sure that this council sends a strong message, basically just the public information of the importance of this very important document that happens every 5 years. This is the information that we use to help us move forward as a community. This is the information we use when we're going through our planning process, like a municipal comprehensive review and that thing right now. It tells us the growth. It tells us the types of things about our community that we can only learn this way, and we can only get that very important information if people complete the census and get this done. So just wanted to stress that very important fact and send a message on behalf of council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cullen, as the seconder, did you want to speak on this?
Thank you, Chair. Again, Mayor Collier, thank you for including me on this. It was quite the honor, and thank you for spending that time and educating me more on this. I was able to share this information with the diverse community that I also represent through the temples, the mandirs, the churches, the mosque. There was a lot for them to learn, and they didn't know, how serious it was and how effective it was to fill out this census. So hopefully we get a better result of the people who partook in it, and the participation in it actually. And again, thank you for the opportunity, Mayor, and thank you for that sharing that education with me as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do any other members of council wish to speak or ask questions regarding this? Seeing none, I'm just going to add in my 2 cents in terms of, I honestly think the census is probably the second most important civic responsibility people have outside of voting. I think it's important to be counted. I think it determines so many things. It determines the size of racialized communities, which Ajax has always boasted as one of the largest ones. It decides ridings. It decides everything. So I think it's really important that people do it. To the mayor's point, better late than never. But I'm very much in support of anything that supports this civic responsibility. So we will call to vote then. All those in favor of the motion in front of you? That is unanimous.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. I'll take
Thank you.
the helm at this point. The next motion is brought forward by Councillor Bauer. Councillor Bauer, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So yes, respecting gender identification and expression, I will also read the therefores. Now therefore be it resolved that Ajax Council affirms its support of transgendered people and gender non-conforming individuals and commitment to gender inclusivity accommodations to eliminate barriers. The manager of HR services and diversity and inclusion coordinator be directed to review the town's internal gender identity and gender expression policy and update the policy as necessary to ensure it remains reflective and responsive to the rights and needs of transgender and gender non-conforming individuals. And the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator be directed to develop a gender identity and gender expression action plan to implement short-term gender inclusivity accommodations, such as reviewing all town application processes and collection of personal information to determine the requirement for gender identification information and updating as necessary, introducing a gender pronoun awareness initiative to educate council and employees on the importance of pronouns and way pronouns can be used at work, conducting gender inclusivity training for all staff, and examining facility infrastructure needs, including signage to support the town's Positive Spaces program. So I do have a few comments to make on this, and I thank my colleague, Councillor Tyler Moore, for seconding this motion. Back in March, I spoke with a resident. And this resident was trying to register for one of the swimming programs at the ACC. And the resident filled out the form, and then it got to the question of gender. And there was a drop-down box, and the options were male or female. So, and that's what sparked the conversation to me was the resident said to me, you know, I know many people, she's a teacher, people and their children who would not be able to answer that question. So I went to staff with it, and I want to commend them because they were very quick to act, and they found a temporary workaround solution to fix that. So I want to thank them for their quickness at addressing a problem. But really what this exercise did was it led to a broader review, a broader issue, a systemic issue, one that calls for more work to be done in this area, and creating positive spaces in the town and corporately. So there is a policy regarding gender identity and gender expression, which was approved in 2016, which actually includes a clause about the forms and how to identify. So there is some work to be done to update and reflect current standards of gender identity and gender expression. So I think our council has done a really good job since our term began of committing to and understanding the importance of where we are today and who our town is today. You know, in February, we made the commitment for various types of training about learning. And I really liked what Mr. Farr said in his presentation about learning, growing, and progressing. So we had training about unconscious bias, about racism, about anti-Black racism, accessibility. And in November of this year, we will be undergoing gender inclusivity training. And the definition of that is training on gender inclusion and the impacts that it has on organizations' equality standards and practices. Learning about the notion that all services, opportunities, and establishments are open to all people, and that male and female stereotypes do not define societal roles and expectations. So I think it's wonderful that we are learning and growing and progressing. You know, as well, if we look at our strategic plan, our playbook that we developed by council input, staff input, and the residents' input, I had a look, and we make reference to the words inclusion, inclusive, diverse, accessible, support, and positive spaces 19 times that I counted. I probably missed some. So clearly, this is important. We want to learn, we want to grow, we want to progress. So, and I think that we are doing a great job. This is, you know, we've been doing a great job talking the talk. And now it's through things like the actions in our strat plan about completing these very important training modules. And it's about the actions in this motion that I think also not only allows us to talk the talk, but we're going to walk the walk, and we're going to make Ajax equitable and welcoming and inclusive to everyone. So I'm very happy to bring this forward, and I ask my colleagues for their support. And when it is time, I also ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Tyler Moore as the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor Collier, Your Worship. And thank you, Councilor Bauer. She's done a lot of work on this file, and I was very honored that she came to me with it. We had a great conversation, as we often do. And there's two sides to it for me when I thought about it. One was clerical, because I know when I go to the dentist or if I go to a chiropractor, they have gender identity, in the male, female gender identity. And we don't have that. So to me, that was clerical. We have to do that. We have to be in 2021. We have to make sure that, we're progressive and we're smart and everything's in order for all members of our community. But then, like you said, the wider conversation, I won't repeat what you said, because for me, it came down to one word that you and I shared, and it was comfort. I want everybody to feel comfortable so that you don't feel marginalized or weird, or because if you just think of a family, with a son or daughter, or it could be a brother, there should be no butterflies in your stomach about filling out a form. You should be able to go in there and just relax and fill it out. And I think this motion speaks to that. I don't mean to be 30,000 feet above all this, but for me, it was just philosophical and clerical. And philosophically, I thought, sure, this should be this way. We should make people feel comfortable and inclusive. And like you say, I like the fact that I guess in 2016, previous council spoke to this, and now we're actually bringing something forth that's an action item. So good on you, Councillor Bauer, for initiating this, and thanks again for including me.
Thank you. Does any other member of council wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Lee, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I thank my council colleagues for bringing this forward. I can only imagine how difficult it is to feel so different in your own body, and then to be persecuted or to be discriminated against because of who you are as an individual. And who you are as an individual doesn't really impact anyone else. So to have someone put, judgment on it or values on it, on some hypothetical of how your decision, who you are, will somehow impact them possibly in the future is ridiculous. So this is, I'm glad Councilor Bauer caught this. It's a fantastic motion, and it just signifies really how progressive our town is, and how it shouldn't even be called progressive at this point. How just with the times the town is and will always be in supporting all our residents. Be who you are. That's the only message I will ever insist on my constituents. So thank you both for bringing this forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anything further? Not seeing any hands. Mr. Clerk, a recorded vote was called, please.
On the motion, in favor or opposed, Councillor Bauer,
In favor?
Regional Councillor Crawford,
In favor.
Regional Councillor Dyes,
In favor?
Councillor Khan,
In favor?
Regional Councillor Lee,
In favor.
Councillor Tyler Morin,
In favor.
Mayor Collier.
In favor. I believe that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next motion, Westney Road Noise Study. Regional Councillor Crawford, please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not quite as progressive, but albeit still very important. We've had a number of complaints from residents that live very, very close to Westney Road. And some of these residents have been, shouldn't say complaints, I should say reports. They have lived here for years, decades have lived here. So certainly have weathered the storm through the progression of the volume of traffic going down Westney Road. Actually, I actually would like to make an amendment to my own motion, because since this motion was written, we've actually had more complaints, which would span almost up to Delaney at this point. And so what I would like to ask is that the region do a noise study, pollution study on Westney Road. And hopefully it's not one that only lasts a day, but more of a week to week, like a weekend to a weekend. Because I do believe that there is a lot of traffic and a lot of noise, and we're still in a pandemic. We're supposed to be staying home, but it still seems to be very busy out there. So
I'll second the amendment if you want.
okay, so if we could just have that extended out to Delaney, I think that would be very helpful. Anyway, that's just the rationale for the motion. I don't think I really need to read it. It's pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tyler Moran, as the seconder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, very briefly. I used the word no-brainer, but last time, I just want to say that we're trying to advocate as much as we can for residents that have been very spirited, there's a word, and a community engagement that comes to mind. Not complaints, but a lot of community engagement on this. And we hear it ourselves. We live in these neighborhoods, don't ever forget it. And yeah, I'm glad this is coming forth, and I really hope this has some teeth. And working with DRP, we can really get everybody to calm down a little bit, because there's a lot of noise pollution out there right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments on this? I'll just say, I don't know if you all heard it, but I live next to a fairly busy street, and the very loud car with the modified exhaust and the music blaring that just went by. I don't know if everybody heard that, but it's not just Wesley. But anyway, I would like to see that addressed as well.
That is the other complaint, the pipes, for sure.
Oh, that's an easy one, I think, to figure out. You can hear it coming a mile away. Anyway, those in favor?
Sorry, point of order. Do we have to vote on the amendment first? I think there's an amendment on the floor right now.
I took that as a friendly.
Okay, just making sure. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
I just took, I actually crossed it out and wrote it in, so we're done.
Does that will be changed though, right? Before we go to the region on
Yes.
that? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure the clerk has documented that, and it's on this sheet, which I'll drop off in his desk tomorrow. Those in favor? That is carried. I see all hands. That completes our motions. Moving on to bylaws, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Bauer, that bylaw number 31-2021 to 32-2021 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Any questions on the bylaws? Nope. Those in favor of receipt? I see all hands. That's carried. Are there any notice of motion? Being none. New business and announcements. Councillor Tyler Moore.
Sorry, I didn't know if Regional Councillor Crawford wanted to read this, but I'll do it. Happening next Tuesday at 7 p.m., May 25, virtually, of course. The focus will be on safety in the community with 2 members of Durham Regional Police Service. That's for our Town of Ajax Ward 1 meeting. It's all over social media, but if you want to get a hold of Marilyn or sorry, Regional Councillor Crawford or I, we can give you the Zoom online. Registration is required, but that's next Tuesday at 7 p.m., May 25. Marilyn Crawford, Rob Tyler Moore, including 2 members of Durham Regional Police. We're talking about safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
I want to know if it's appropriate if I ask a question about a letter that you wrote.
For sure. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if you had a response from Steve Clark.
No, not to my last 5 letters.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Lee.
I don't normally do this, but on June 11th, it is my 5th anniversary. So I imagine I'm gonna forget if like later on. So just if my wife is watching, or we'll watch the YouTube afterwards. Happy anniversary, dear. I hope I got you something nice. Thank you, Chair.
I might as well say the same. Mine's on June 2nd.
And it's my granddaughter's 10th birthday today.
I was just going to say that. Happy birthday, Riley. I was just waiting for everybody else to be done. Anything further on new business announcements? Hearing, seeing none. Moving on to the confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Dye, second by Councillor Khan. The bylaw number 33-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its regular meeting held on May 17th to be read a first, second, third time and passed. Those in favor? I see all hands. That is carried. Finally, adjournment moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Tyler Moran, that the May 17th, 2021 meeting of the Council of the Town of Ajax be adjourned. Those in favor? That is carried.